Casper Network is about to launch their mainnet, and with it, they're conducting one of the probably largest public sales in the history of public sales together with Coinlist. In today's video, I have with me on my channel Cliff, who is the COO over at Casper Network, and we talked a lot of things about the project, from its technical views, how it all plugs into with Ethereum, and also of course about tokenomics side of things, about the business side of things and the ecosystem. And quick disclaimer here, I'm also part of the Genesis blog and the early staking Validator Network of Casper, so I'm super excited and looking forward to the launch. I started to cover Casper already back in September, so I made a video on them and I also tweet a lot about them, and it's just amazing to see how they grew over the past couple of months, especially now with the announcement of the public sale. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy this video. Hope you learn something from it, and also that you conduct your own due diligence, because there are so many research, documentation and papers that really give you a broad insight on what Casper is truly about, right? Besides the public sale. So having that said, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, make sure you like this video, and also make sure that you watch this entire thing.
Until now, blockchain technology has been a series of compromises. No Layer 1 protocol exists in the market that supports everything enterprises, developers, and consumers need from decentralized applications. We've built the Casper Network to provide the existing and emerging blockchain ecosystem with a solution that makes no compromises and sets the stage for sustainable enterprise, consumer, and developer adoption. I'm Meta Parlikar, co-founder and CTO of CasperLabs, the team behind the Casper Network. Previously, I've overseen multi-million-dollar tech stacks, including Adobe, Avalara, MP3.com, DivX, and many more.
I'm Rinal Manohar, co-founder and CEO of CasperLabs. We have assembled technology experts, business leaders, and experienced advisors from across the blockchain, enterprise, and cloud industries to bring to market the most advanced, secure, and reliable proof-of-stake smart contract platform.
Casper is not a fork of an existing blockchain. Rather, it has been built from the ground up based on work outlined in the original Casper CBC specification. On top of that scalable, secure, and decentralized proof-of-stake architecture, we have included features to optimize it for mass adoption. Casper is developer-friendly. Instead of using a proprietary language, Casper supports WebAssembly. There are nearly 30 million developers in the world, and Casper is designed so that any of them can start building applications immediately with the tools and languages already familiar to them. Casper is also user-friendly. Our gas model allows developers and users to predict network usage costs by stabilizing gas fees, even during times of acute network traffic. Casper is permissionless, but flexible. Businesses can choose to build private or permissioned applications on the network, providing a business application with both the confidentiality of a private network and the security of a public one. Casper is also upgradable. Today, implementing upgrades to on-chain applications is cumbersome both from a technical and governance perspective. Casper enables on-chain smart contracts to be directly upgraded, removing the need for complex ecosystem communication and migration processes. With Mainnet Genesis, the network's native token, CSPR, will also launch.
All right, so I have the pleasure to be joined today by Clifford Sarkin, who is the COO over at Casper Network. And yeah, obviously Casper is currently one of the most highly anticipated projects that is about to launch Mainnet. So yeah, we have a fully jam-packed episode today, all around the project, how it got started, and what makes it different and so hyped also at the moment. Clifford just told me that there's a lot of amazing stuff in the pipeline. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first things first, Clifford, how's everything in Los Angeles?
Everything's good. Still dealing with the pandemic a little bit, but I think we're turning the corner. But otherwise, things are good here in LA. And Michael, please call me Cliff. If you call me Clifford, I think it's my mom who's like mad at me for not taking out the trash or something.
All right, Cliff. So I was looking actually on your LinkedIn profile. There's a lot of institutional and corporational background that you have. Can you walk us through maybe in the first step how you joined Casper and how the team basically came up? Because the whole idea of the consensus algorithm of the technology stack is, I think, already around and in the research since 2014. But how did you and how did the whole team come together in the first place? Was it just like a couple of years ago that you thought, okay, let's get this started? And what is your role in the whole project? Maybe you can start off with that.
Yeah, happy to. And it's almost 2.5, almost 3 years ago since we started. So, and in crypto time, that's like three decades, right? So everyone comes to blockchain, from a different path or different story. Me personally, I actually went to law school once upon a time, but I realized even in school that I'm not meant to be a lawyer. And living in San Francisco, even though I now live in LA, I lived in SF for 10 years. I couldn't help but get caught up in Silicon Valley. And so I joined my first startup a few years after law school and realized this is what I want to do. I want to do the business side of tech companies, and joined an amazing team. That first team, the company got acquired by Microsoft, and joined the next team. And that company I helped grow from, I don't know, like 12 employees, I think I was when I joined, to almost 70 by the time I left. So this is what I love to do, which is take an idea, something new that's never been put out in the world, raise money, build a team, raise more money, grow the team, build the structures for success, and eventually hopefully put that thing into the world and make a small difference in the way people do whatever they do. And even though I'd been hearing about blockchain for years, obviously being in Silicon Valley, I didn't jump in until 2017. And my first experience was actually at a fund, my first time on that side of the kind of funding table. And this was kind of during the ICO boom. And we invested in a lot of projects. And then in 2018, when things we weren't investing as much and weren't advising as much, that's when I met the founding team at Casper. So Mrinal Manohar, our CEO, Meta Parlikar, our CTO, and they started to tell me the story. And which I'll tell you in a second, but basically they asked me to come on as the first business hire and help us raise our first round, and it's kind of grown since then. So the origins are actually further back than even the CBC white paper that Vlad Zamfir published in 2017. Kind of almost goes back to Ethereum, which obviously Bitcoin is the big watershed moment in our space, but Ethereum and the invention of the smart contract was the other tectonic shift that happened. But basically, since the early days of Ethereum, there's been a scaling challenge, right? Ethereum did amazing on decentralization and amazing on security, but they've kind of been up against this, 10 or 20 transactions a second, but more than that, the cost of transactions and the latency of the network. And so that is what really prompted Vlad to work on the original CBC Casper white paper, to solve some of the lingering issues then about proof of stake, because there's something called the ghost rule or the ghost problem, the greediest, heaviest observed subtree, and he proposed his solutions to that as basically the beginning of an architecture of what Ethereum 3.0 should look like. Like when and if Ethereum ever gets to full proof of stake, this was his proposal. It should look something like this. At the time, Ethereum was saying it's going to take 4 or 5 years to get there. And here we are 2.5 years later, and it still looks like it's going to take Ethereum 4 or 5 years to get there. Why? Well, Ethereum's got to move from proof of work to proof of stake, from GPUs to CPUs, and convince all of the miners to throw away $5 billion in equipment and become validators without breaking any smart contract, right? It's a yeoman's task that I mean, if anyone can do it, Vitalik can do it, but it's going to take a long time. And so the founders at CasperLabs said, why should we as the world have to wait, 4 or 5 or now 7 or 8 years for a fully decentralized and scalable proof of stake network? Why don't we just raise some money, create a team and do it in 2 years? Well, it's taken us 2.5. Sorry about that. And so, we basically went to Vlad and said, do you mind if we do this? And he said, well, yeah, I didn't design this and put this out there only for Ethereum. Ethereum has funded my research. And we said, well, what if we fund some of your research as well? So we worked with Vlad for the better part of a year, that from late 2018 to late 2019. The architecture needed completion. His original proposal wasn't provably live or provably safe. We actually had some amazing other PhDs that worked on the architecture part. There's someone on staff named Andreas Fackler out of Prague, who's just a brilliant mathematician and helped us with the architecture. And then the other guy that your audience should look up, he's a man by the name of Dr. Daniel Kane. He's a double PhD from MIT and Harvard, and he's now a tenured professor in both the computer science and mathematics departments at UC San Diego. He was pivotal in really finishing the architecture, which we published under the name Highway. So everyone should check out our Highway paper. But the architecture was just one thing. You then have to code it. And so we've spent the better part of 2 years coding it. And here we are about a week or two at most away from mainnet launch. So I know that was a lot. Happy to go into more details, but that's basically the story.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot, but it's also a lot of value, I think, and you summarized it pretty good. I think one thing that Vitalik also said 2 years ago or something is that one thing he regrets about Ethereum is that they launched it too fast back in 2015. And I think that was also the time when Vlad and him started to really dig deep into building proof of stake consensus algorithms, right? And that's where also, I think, the first versions of functional POS models actually came up. And I think over the years then it has evolved. And yeah, I really encourage everybody to read the Highway paper also, which is then what you guys took over and added other, smart people's brain juice to it. So that's really cool. And yeah, obviously it's very techy. But I think now in the next couple of months, we'll hear and see a lot from you guys since you're launching, and we'll talk about the launch, and we'll talk about also some tokenomics. That's obviously what a lot of people in the community, and crypto Twitter are super excited about that. But before we get into that, you already mentioned just now that Ethereum is still 5, 6, maybe 7 years away from being fully scalable and fully functional, fully decentralized, and all that. And
well, no, they're fully decentralized and fully functional now, and that's amazing, right? We love Ethereum. We are on the Ethereum branch of the blockchain tree. Yeah. We love the Ethereum community, but it's proof of stake that there's still several years away from getting to.
That's what I meant. Yeah, I mean, because right now they're still on proof of work, right? And I think it takes another year probably until they launch ETH2, and that's also a great transition because Meda Parlikar, she's the CTO, I guess, right? She wrote this piece comparing ETH2 with Casper right now, or whenever mainnet launches next week. Can you elaborate on that? And I think also in the paper, in this little article, actually, it's not a paper, it's just a little comparison article, because I think a lot of people in the community asked. Can you maybe elaborate a bit? What are the core differences architecture-wise, not deep technicals, but just like from the logic behind, how is Casper compared to ETH2? And then also what you just said, probably compare even Casper with ETH3, and does ETH3 actually plan to implement Casper fully, or what's the roadmap here?
Well, it's a good thing you don't want to get too technical because you're talking to the former lawyer business guy. So I'll explain it, to my level of understanding. But basically ETH2, which we've just kind of started on, or Ethereum has just kind of started on, is a transition to ETH3. And even ETH2 has many phases. But basically what ETH2 is doing is starting from full proof of work and going very slowly to full proof of stake, which is ETH3. So right now, I don't know the exact percentage, but I still think it's like 90 or 95% proof of work. And they're slowly taking parts of the network and incorporating proof of stake to do consensus. And so I think you'd have to talk to the Ethereum guys or try to get Vitalik on here and ask him, why it's necessary to do the slow transition. But my understanding is that ETH2 is the transition period where they're slowly going to incorporate proof of stake. But right now, ETH2 isn't just mostly proof of work, it's almost entirely proof of work still with like a sprinkle of proof of stake. Whereas what we are building is proof of stake from the beginning. So we don't need to go through that transition phase because we didn't start at proof of work, in essence, if you had to put it in one sentence, what we're doing is building Ethereum 3.0 now. The reason why that's not entirely accurate is, we don't know exactly what Ethereum 3.0 is going to look like. Well, I don't work for Consensus. I'm not an Ethereum developer, so you'll really have to ask them. You'll have to ask Vitalik. Are you really going to take full Casper and do that for Ethereum 3.0? Are you going to take parts of Casper and other parts of stuff that you're thinking about and working on? What I can speak about is our version of proof of stake, which is a fully decentralized and secure Casper proof of stake.
Amazing. Yeah, and I guess that's the classic second mover advantages that you guys have, or if you would even take Bitcoin into consideration, you're even like the third mover in the whole evolution. But it's obviously you have faster development, and I think that's what Vitalik was also alluding to when he was saying that he wished he didn't launch Ethereum too fast, because now they have this massive network and millions of people already, billions of dollars locked in value. It's going to be a hard mission to transition or to implement fundamental changes to the network right now. But I think that's also what they want to achieve in the long term. But obviously that's now where you can see Polkadot, you can see also Cardano, they're now also gaining a lot of momentum and traction. So I think that's the classic second mover advantage that you guys also have here in that sense.
If I can respond to that, first of all, if anyone can do it, Vitalik can do it. He's the smartest one in every room, right? But it is a gargantuan task. What's the expression? Like, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Like, we have the benefit of Bitcoin coming before us, and Ethereum and Cardano. And when I first started learning about blockchain, I was watching Charles Hoskinson videos. Like, he explained to me the fundamentals of blockchain. So much respect for these giants in our space. And yes, because we started building in 2018 instead of 2015, we obviously have all those lessons. And one of those lessons is what you alluded to when Vitalik said he wished he didn't launch so quickly. Like, the version of Ethereum that we know just caught on like wildfire. It was a proof of concept. I don't think they even intended it to be the network, but it just caught on so fast, right? In 2015 through 2017, one of the lessons that we learned, and there's a lot of product features that we have incorporated because we have the benefit of history, is something called CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. The problem with the Ethereum network is it's very difficult to upgrade, whereas we built in upgradability from the beginning. A lot of our team members have come from Microsoft and Avalara and these places that have built enterprise software, and an essential part of enterprise software is an update. Like, how many times on your iPhone or your Android or your Mac or PC do you say it's time to upgrade Windows or it's time to upgrade OS? You can't do that on Ethereum because they didn't build that ability in from the beginning. And so that sort of it's called CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment, will allow us to upgrade the network, because we don't know what the technology is the newest thing is going to be in 3 years or 5 years, but at least we've built the ability to upgrade the network from the beginning.
Yeah, and I also read in the paper, in your white paper, that I think it's somewhere in the top also, there's a lot of innovators from building a directed acyclic graph architecture instead of a blockchain. So can you maybe talk a little bit about the general architecture of Casper? Is it more, because I think in the paper it actually states that Casper is more built as a DAG and not, or has more components of a DAG. So maybe can you elaborate a bit on that, and also what advantages that gives? I think talking here about sharding and stuff like that, what are the core advantages besides what you just mentioned about the upgradability of Casper from it?
Yeah, great. So on the design side, and again, you're not talking the CTO, you're talking to the COO. And I definitely don't mean to try to be more accurate than our developers and our architects in our white paper, but my understanding is it's not more like a DAG than a blockchain. It's actually both. Like, the design is really interesting because in Highway, the participants in Consensus send like attestations to what are called like proto blocks. And these attestations take the form of a DAG. but when the blocks are finalized through what's called summits, that's the DAG part. But the blockchain that's produced by all these little DAGs is a linear blockchain. So you kind of have both at work, like mini DAGs that together form a chain. And if you see our logo, our Casper logo with the little dots kind of forming a chain, we've kind of taken the benefits of both. Happy to run through some other features that we're really proud about if now's the right time, or we can go on to the next question.
I wanted to ask regarding you already mentioned it actually earlier, I think, regarding the Validator Network and the proof of stake system that you guys have, because I think somewhere it also says that there's 100 slots of validators. Can you talk about that? Because whenever, like, very simple, whenever somebody hears 100 validators, they immediately think, oh, it's centralized, right? So how can you ensure decentralization on a staking validator on that validator network without running the danger that one day it could be taken over by malicious actors?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that starting with 75 or 100, which is where we'll launch Mainnet, I think is actually pretty decentralized. When you look at some of the other chains that do randomization or super nodes or block producers, in some cases it's basically just a global private database with like 12 nodes. I think starting at 75 or 100 is actually fairly decentralized. We're starting with that number just to make sure we launch Mainnet successfully, but then we're going to open up. So during this first phase, there'll be a permissionless validator set rotation. So we won't decide who those validators are. There'll be an auction process, and basically the auction will select the top stakers with the most stake, and this can change every era, which is every hour or so, and then the slots will be configurable over time, so we will expand over time. So we think we're starting fairly permissionless. We are fully permissionless, but we're starting fairly decentralized. And as the network gets more secure, we're going to grow those number of slots into the auction till eventually it's fully permissionless, and we can have hundreds or thousands of slots.
Yeah. So I think the design features and architecture is very interesting. There's obviously, it goes very, very deep. And I said earlier, like, let's not get stuck too much with all the technicals here. I think also the audience is not too much like into all that. And there's so much to read. I really encourage everybody, the highway paper, the original CBC paper from Vlad. Like, there's so much to read, or the new white paper. Please take that time, because I know that's also something that most people in crypto don't even bother to do, right? Some people, they just want to go on CoinGecko and buy the first coin that they see there. So, but really, this is really fundamental stuff here, and I really encourage everybody to do that. But let's move on to one of the more juicier topics, and it is the ecosystem, right? So this year we've seen, or 2020 also, we've seen a lot of projects gaining more momentum, because there was this kind of narrative of DeFi that came up, and then a lot of DApps that actually had real users, which is something that we didn't see in 2017, right? It was more like a pure ICO speculative bubble kind of like environment. But now we actually do see that a lot of applications are gaining real users. They have real running products, right? They have billions of dollars in value locked. I think right now on DeFi Pulse, you see it's probably 45-50 billion, didn't check today. But can you talk us through about the ecosystem? And I know that you also pivot Casper not to the purely kind of like DeFi world, but also more to an enterprise world. So can you talk us through what's the purpose of this pivot, and what is the current stage here? Like, what partners do you currently have already?
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a pivot. Like the narrative. So we set out to build the first, basically what we think is the third fully decentralized blockchain ever, right? It'll be Bitcoin, Ethereum, and us. And we're like, well, if we're building the most advanced blockchain ever, we've noticed other blockchains have made lots of other decisions, and we're not quite sure why. And we then set out, well, let's make the best product. Like, blockchain that we think is out there. And so I've already mentioned continuous integration, continuous deployment. We also built the blockchain. It's a public chain, but you can have private instances of the chain or hybrid instances. We don't have a proprietary programming language, so no Solidity, no Plutus. You can basically build in whatever language you want. Well, right now we support Rust and TypeScript, but soon, the C family of languages, the Java family of languages, Python, Go, etc. We've built it so that it doesn't always have to be the sender that pays the gas. The receiver, whoever builds a smart contract can decide maybe the receiver pays the gas, or the sender and receiver split the gas, or the DApp pays the gas on behalf of both parties. We have GraphQL built in, weighted key management. So we made all these product improvements over every other blockchain. And what emerged is we started to show the world, and real enterprises that have been sitting on the sidelines said, whoa, that's the blockchain we've been waiting for. That, an enterprise grade blockchain that we're used to working with. So enterprises, it doesn't necessarily mean big businesses only. It could be startups, it could be governments, it could be NGOs, but they're used to a certain level of professional product that we believe has been missing in our space. And that's what we've produced. And I'm really excited to share that it's panned out. We're already working with dozens and dozens of enterprises. We've announced several, Metastyle, Anthem Gold, Harrisoft. The one that we're super proud of is IPWE, which is a patent sales and licensing marketplace. Like, these are existing businesses that are perfect for blockchain. And we're talking to massive, like, billion-dollar supply chain companies, casino conglomerates, that names you've heard of, household names in tech. We're talking to governments. I'm sorry I can't give names just yet, but there are going to be some incredible announcements over the next few months of this being the first time that these companies and nonprofits and governments are really adopting blockchain for the first time. The industry has finally evolved to this place, and they see Casper a lot of the time as the perfect solution. And I think this is what's really going to drive value to Casper over time, is real adoption, right? Sure, there'll be dApps and there'll be the Casper version of CryptoKitties, and I'm excited to see what people hack on the chain. It's gonna be fun. But I think after the hype cycle, after we launch our token in May and it starts trading and all of that, I think long term, what's really going to drive real growth and value to the Casper network is true real world adoption. And it's nice to see that we're already seeing that.
Amazing, yeah. And one thing that also I got asked from my community is, and you already briefly touched upon it, is basically this classic crypto applications, right? The CryptoKitties and the NFTs and whatnot. Can you talk us through, like, is there going to be also a decentralized finance ecosystem that's going to be rolled out? Basically the Uniswap equivalents, automated market making. Is it also something that you kind of like built in-house, or is that something that you want to invite developers and incentivize them and stuff like that? Or what is the game plan here?
Yes. Thank you for asking this question. So we don't want to build it in-house, right? We built, like, the blockchain to the place where it is now, which is getting ready for mainnet launch. But next week or thereabouts, when we launch mainnet, the blockchain is not going to belong to us. Like, us as CasperLabs, we're the company that's been building this, and that's who employs me. But we don't want to build this chain ourselves forever. Like, the analogy that I like to use is that we're sending our kid off to college next week. that we birthed her, we've been nurturing her, teaching her to eat well and sleep well and exercise, but starting next week, she's on her own. Like, we get to call her, check in, maybe send her some money, but she belongs to the world. And in the same way, the Casper Network other people can build on it. And this is what really got me when I first learned about blockchain, is the power of leaderless networks. If the founders are humble enough to say, we might know a lot, but we don't know everything, and we're willing to take our hands off the steering wheel at some point and let the world build this, it could be so much greater than we could even imagine. And so we're finally at that point. And then to your question about, well, how can people hack on it, and how can people be incentivized to build it if we're not? And by the way, yeah, all the DeFi apps, like our version of, PokerStarter, PokerSwap, all those things are absolutely going to be part of the Casper ecosystem. And some people are thinking about them now. But the way to get involved is there's something that was created, about a year ago, called the Developers DAO. And if you go to devxdao.com, they basically came to us and said, we don't belong to you. We're not employed by you. We think, you guys should incentivize developers, but you shouldn't be in control of those tokens. A third party should. And we found that very fascinating, and it meant us being humble enough to say, you're right, we shouldn't, we as CasperLabs. And so the Dev DAO, the Developers DAO, isn't just Casper, although we're the first network that they're working with, and we're going to give them a lot of tokens. We're going to give them, over 5 years, 16% of our total token supply for them to administer grants for people to build on Casper. And they'll produce RFPs, requests for proposal, if they think, man, we should really have a DEX, or we should really have some sort of swap, or some sort of NFT, right? They'll say, this is what we think we need. Everyone submit your proposals in a month, right? Or other people can just come to them and say, I think you really need X, Y, and Z. And they'll say, yeah, you're right. And then they'll write a proposal for it. But if there are developers in your community that want to earn tokens by building out the Casper network, or if they're a project that wants to build on the network and would like some tokens as incentive or to pay for gas, I highly recommend you reach out to the Dev DAO guys and gals, because they're the ones that have a ton of our tokens and they want to get them out into the world.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great initiative. I think, that's great. Great to hear that stuff like that is in the works. Talk us through now, because you already said it a couple of times, the mainnet is coming, and the launch is coming. What are you guys now? I guess you guys are super busy now, and everything is, everyone's very excited about the launch. How is the current sentiment? How do you guys feel? How is everything going? Is there any challenges that you still have on the way? Is everything, just how is everything right now?
Yeah, crazy busy. Our team is almost 50 now, and I think everyone is, working like 16-hour days. Like, this is our playoffs, not even the playoffs. These are the finals, and so we'll sleep in May. But I'm happy to report that everything is going amazingly. From the reports that I get, because I'm not on the developer side, but from our CTO, everything looks awesome for Mainnet, sometime in the next 2 weeks. Just perfect Genesis block. Everyone's really optimistic for a very flawless launch. And then on my side of the company, like the business side, man, it couldn't be better. Like, we have an amazing team on the business side, on the marketing side. Our community has just flourished. Like two months ago, we were at like 3,000 Telegram members. We just crossed over 21,000 today, and I'm really proud that there's none of that is bots or paid or influencers. I mean, we do interviews, but all of that is organic. And I think I can share some numbers about our sale on Coinlist. Sure. we never imagined the response. So when we went through our due diligence with Coinlist last fall, and we finally got the term sheet, and like it was really rigorous, like 6 months of questions and answers and meetings. And when we finally, they said, you made it, they said you were joining really exclusive company. In like 3.5 years that Coinlist has been in business, they've done 16 sales, and we're number 17. And so, Filecoin, Blockstack, Algorand, Celo, Solana, Near, and Flow. Very honored to be in that company, but the demand and the interest has just been incredible. It's like, we crossed over 100,000 pre-registrations last week. I think we crossed over 140,000 yesterday.
And that is excluding Americans and excluding Chinese, right? Because they are not like legal wise, they can't sign up there. Yeah. So that's just like rest of the world, right?
Yeah. And
huge.
This will be by far like Flow's set all the records for like number of participants and number of registrants. Jesus. And we are well beyond Flow, and so much love and respect for all of our peers that came before us. It's not a competition. It's mostly that we're just so flattered and humbled by the support. And can't thank our community enough. And our partners at Coinlist, we just announced our our custody partnership with BitGo today. They're amazing partners. We're blessed with an incredible community and an incredible set of partners.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I was doing a small review about Casper back in September. So that's already a couple of months back. And, when I published the video, it got a few hundred views. And then suddenly, like 2 months ago, it spiked. It went completely nuts. And like, Jesus Christ, what's going on? So that was, I think, when you guys just announced the token sale and the public sale. But I've seen it growing 100% organically over the past, what is it now? 5 months now, almost 5-6 months. So that is really, really cool to see how you guys...
Coinlist reached out to us, like a week ago, and they were like scratching their heads. And like usually with their sales, they see a big spike in registrations on day 1 or day 2, and then it kind of, and they're like, guys, we're seeing like the rate of registrations going up. It was like 2,000 or 3,000 a day, and then it was 4,000 or 5,000, and like they're like, we don't know what's going on. Like, why is it continuing? It's not even just continuing, it's growing every day. And same with Telegram. We were getting like 400 or 500 new folks a day, and now we're getting 800 or 1,000. Like, where is everyone coming from? And I mean, please come. I'm glad you're coming. But
it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels really good right now.
Yeah, and I think that the purpose of the interview here is also to really like make people aware that sure, there's a lot of hype right now. Sure, everybody wants to also get a token and everything, but please read all the documentation. Like, this is very fundamental stuff, like Cliff was saying. This is actually the next evolution, the next step in the evolution of blockchains, right? And building a proof of stake ecosystem at scale that also a lot of projects, governments, large institutions, enterprises are using. That's probably the next step that we need in order to really go mainstream with the entire crypto industry, right, as a whole. But obviously also right now you guys have perfect timing, right? Obviously, Bitcoin is setting new highs, and
Michael, we planned it this way. Back in October of 2018, we thought, God, if it takes us 2.5 years, the market's gonna be no. I mean, there's so many things that are out of our control, and we just happen to be launching into the hottest crypto market ever.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be a bear market later, and like we're all in this for the long haul, right? It's not about market timing. It's about doing your best work, paying attention to what your customer, and in our sense, our customer are enterprises. What do they want? They want fully decentralized, scalable, and secure. They want the tools that they're used to actually build on, and they want us to, stay humble and work hard. So that's what we're going to keep doing through this market, and the next market, and the next market.
Yeah, and I have one more question or topic, also to address the when Binance Moon guys. You already talked about the sale, obviously, but can you talk a little bit also about the tokenomics side of things? I think you also just announced a few days ago some changes to the sale and the three options that are there. What would you say now to somebody who says like, hey, I love the technology, I love the ecosystem, I love the team. How do I can get involved? How do I can, increase my odds to maybe get an allocation through Coinlist? Can you give some insights here, some thoughts? And also then in the second part of the question, what is the next kind of steps from your side? You just announced, like I said, the BitGo custody partnership. So what's coming next here?
Yeah, great.
Exchanges.
So our token economics have basically stayed, very consistent since we first announced them. The most amount of tokens will, be sold into the market. We did 2 private validator sales before the Coinlist sale. The Coinlist sale is our big, public sale. As I said, 16% of tokens go to developers. 10% of tokens stays with CasperLabs. 8% of tokens go to the team, and not just the current team, future team. And that's really low. If you look at other projects that have set aside 20 or 30% of tokens, we wanted to be very conservative, and the team has the longest lockup and longest distribution period. 6% for advisors. We've been supported by over 50 advisors for the life of the project, plus future advisors. So both the team and advisor tokens aren't just current team and advisors, but future. And then the nonprofit Casper Association, which will handle the future sales of tokens. And so when we started with Coinlist, we didn't know what the demand was going to be when we announced the terms of the sale. And we set aside 10% of tokens for this initial public sale. And now it's up to 16%. And that extra 6% came from the association. So those would have been sold later in the future. So we're just selling, the association's just selling more now at a cheaper price. We didn't realize the demand was going to be this high. And so the reason we had to make a guess. We had to say, well, we looked at near and we looked at flow and we looked at the hot market, and we kind of came up with the allocation that we thought was going to meet the demand and the pricing. And then what I'd like to share with the community is that these changes we made, which are basically 2, to increase the allocation from 10% to 16% and to lower the caps, were all meant to get more people in. That's the only intention. We didn't change the price, and we didn't change the lockups. People told us we should. Well, if you go from 3 cents in option 3 up to 30 cents, less people will come in. And right away, everyone on the team said, absolutely not, right? Like, that is a change in terms that's worse for the community. We only made changes that we thought were better. And if it turns out we should have sold it for higher, because we would have, because the thing goes to the moon, or forget the moon, Mars, we're not going to regret that we sold it initially at 3 cents rather than 30 cents. Like, those few $1,000,000, that doesn't matter. We want everyone to participate, and as well as many people as possible to participate and enjoy this success. But that said, like you mentioned, not everyone is going to get in, even with these changes. And so I apologize to the community for that. For people that are excited about Coinlist, that registered early, that you don't end up getting in, we are sorry. There's really nothing we can do. It's just the demand is too great. But what I would say is, after the 40 days after the Coinlist sale, so the Coinlist sale ends March 28th, 40 days later is May 7th. So that's what we're targeting for Token Trading Day. It will be listed on Coinlist Pro. So everyone that signed up for Coinlist should get a Coinlist Pro account, because you'll be able to buy tokens there on a Token Trading Day. And then when Binance, when Huobi, when Kraken, when Coinbase. Well, I'm safe to say Coinbase isn't going to be right away. They're going through an IPO. We hopefully will be on Coinbase eventually, but we're in a fortunate position where all of the top exchanges around the world that are global and regional are reaching out to us. We're reaching out to them. We're talking to them. We're going to wait till after the Coinlist sale to announce, when those particular exchanges will be on, because part of it is how long the integrations take. There's integrations with every exchange because we're not an ERC20. The Casper token, CSPR, is our own native blockchain token. And so it requires integration work.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, on that same day that it's listed on Coinlist Pro, it's likely to get listed on at least one or another tier one, and then, many more soon thereafter.
I mean, the thing is, from like, and this is just me speaking from an outsider. I have no clue, but like, whenever you hear, like 100,000 people are signing up for pre-sale or for a public sale, like exchanges are going to take a look at that, right? Like centralized exchanges, because 100,000 people, like exchanges think about users, right, as well. So this is also interesting for them, obviously, which is why I think this is definitely interesting for a lot of major exchanges. But yeah, obviously this is also
Michael, I mean, those, even just hearing you repeat the numbers back to me, like we were thinking, God, if 20,000 people register for the sale, that would be incredible, and here we are, at like 150,000, and it's really exhilarating and humbling.
Yeah, I guess we can actually wrap it up. I guess you still have a lot on your plate today, so I don't want to take more of your time. But thank you so much for doing this, even in just so short before the launch. Really appreciate that. If there's any last words, anything that you want to share, earlier you also said there's so many amazing things. I guess you could speak on for another 2 hours, but maybe if you want to pick one or two things, or one or two last sentences, then feel free to do that.
Yeah, just a few thank yous. Can't thank my teammates, the people that supported us early, the investors and advisors, but more than anything, I want to say thank you to our community. That includes you, Michael, and hopefully your viewers and all of our communities on Telegram, WeChat, all over the world. Like, we're not doing this for anyone, we're all doing this together. And so if you're not yet part of our community, the last word I would say is, please, you're welcome, you're invited. If it's just about the token, great. But if you want to get involved, if you want to help us start a community in, some country in Africa, in Bangladesh, like, talk to us. We'd love to work with you. If you want to hack on Casper and help build it out, or if you know enterprises, if you are in an enterprise, like, open invitation to talk to us. Find me on Telegram. My email is cliff@casperlabs.io. We pride ourselves on responding to everyone. A little busy the next 2 weeks, but we respond to every message in our Telegram community. Our moderators do. I respond to every email that anyone has ever written to me. Everyone's the same way. Open invitation.
I can confirm that.
I leave you with an open invitation to get involved in Casper, because we're doing this together. And so please join us.
All right. Thank you for so many information and insights. Really excited, looking forward, and wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thanks everyone for listening.